President Biden says he is disappointed in a federal appeals court ruling that dealt a huge blow to his immigration agenda.
A panel of 3 judges decided yesterday that the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, or DACA, is illegal. The White House released a statement last night calling on Congress to, quote, pass permanent protections for dreamers, including a pathway to citizenship. So I want to bring in CBS News reporter Camilo Montoya-Galvez to break down this ruling and talk about what's next. It's not the children of immigrants. It's people who were brought here as children.
Right.
And so they have been, an exception has been carved out for them under DACA. So DACA has been in the courts for years. What was the lead up to yesterday's ruling?
That's right, Emery and Vlad. This policy has been at the center of a legal battle for 5 years now. As you recall, back in the Trump administration, officials tried to end this Obama-era program, but federal courts, including the Supreme Court, prevented that from happening, saying that the Trump administration did not follow proper procedures when it tried to terminate this policy. But that case did not focus on the question of whether this policy is lawful, and Republican states, including Texas, have argued that it is not legal, and they challenged this policy in a lawsuit in 2018. Last summer, a federal judge in Texas agreed with this coalition of Republican-controlled states and declared DACA unlawful. Now we saw the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals agree with that decision and also upheld the finding that DACA is indeed unlawful. This case is now being sent back to that Texas judge to review new regulations that the Biden administration has created to try to codify this program into a federal regulation. We could see an appeal to the Supreme Court, but importantly, the appeals court last night, Vlad and Emery, did not order a complete halt to the program. The nearly 600,000 immigrants who were brought to the U.S. as children and who do not have legal status will still be able to renew their protections from deportation and their work permits. That's very important to underscore.
Yeah. So you mentioned this appeal, Camilo. Does this appeal stand any chance of success?
Well, I think the administration, Vlad, will face an uphill battle in convincing at least 5 justices in the Supreme Court that DACA is indeed lawful. We have now seen 2 federal courts at the district court level and at the appeals court level say that the program is not legal, that the Obama administration did not have the legal authority to grant work permits and deportation deferrals to such a large group of immigrants. And in 2016, a 4-4 split in the Supreme Court blocked a similar Obama administration program that would have granted deportation protection to the undocumented parents of U.S. citizens and green card holders. So I think, again, this program very much remains in legal jeopardy, and advocates for immigrants and dreamers themselves are certainly bracing for the worst case scenario, and that being that DACA could be halted next year.
So, which is why, from the White House, we heard the reaction, the president calling on Congress to do something, right, to make this permanent. But, Camilo, you know, and Vlad, we have seen at times Herculean bipartisan efforts to overhaul the immigration system. It never goes anywhere. What is the likelihood of Congress taking up DACA? It's particularly now when I don't even think it's a major issue.
In a bipartisan effort,
elections.
because we're 4 weeks away from the midterms.
Yeah. No, that is a critical question. This ruling could certainly inject a renewed sense of urgency in Congress to place these so-called dreamers on a pathway to green card status and ultimately U.S. citizenship. This proposal, after all, Anne-Marie, has broad support among lawmakers and the American public across party lines. But as you mentioned, and this is very important, since the turn of the century, Congress has repeatedly failed to legalize this population and to place them on a pathway to U.S. citizenship because of disagreements over other immigration policies, such as policies along the U.S.-Mexico border. And I think in the current Congress, Democrats would need to accept some border security measures to secure the necessary number of Republican votes in the Senate to legalize this population. And it's unclear whether they will make this concession. It's also unclear who will control Congress after the midterms. And it's very important to underscore that when President Obama announced his Vlad and Anne-Marie back in 2012, he conceded that this was a stopgap measure amid congressional inaction. 10 years later, we still don't have a congressional solution in sight.
I can't imagine the anxiety. when you're living under this, never
Terrible.
knowing from day to day if this sort of protection is going to be yanked out from under you. Or
Right.
not.
And if you are somebody who finds himself in that situation, the inability for the United States Congress and lawmakers to get something done that is solid, that paints a path forward,
Yeah.
or provides a path forward to citizenship or other, but
Right.
whatever it is, that they get together and figure it out, and they haven't been able to do that.
While you're
It's
working,
mind-boggling.
you're paying taxes, you're going to school,
Right.
you're being a good citizen.
You're being a good citizen. Exactly right. Camilo, as always, we appreciate your reporting, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you.